everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the tragic story of Albert Fish. This is a very sad case. It's gruesome, so I'm gonna try to keep it as PG as possible and not give you so many details, but you will be able to understand what he did and how he did it. I just feel like there's no time to lose in this case with gruesome details when you can get a good idea of what he did, how he did it, and also where his mind was while he was doing all those horrible things. This is going to be a collaboration video with ASMR Investigation. Now, I love her channel because she has more of those requested videos that are cases that are not so very well known. You know, they're not the videos that when you look them up, you'll find 100 different videos about it. So I really enjoy her content. She does true crime ASMR videos, and I'm sure that if you enjoy my content, you're gonna enjoy hers. Also, her content is not as long as mine. You know that my videos are usually between 40 minutes to an hour because that's how they are. But she have more not so long videos, so you can find something between 10 to 20 minutes. Some other ones are longer, but if you are interested, I will have her channel in the description box down below. And for this particular case, I will be doing the first part of the story, and I will give you a perspective on his life. And then the part 2 of this video, it's going to be uploaded at the same time, so you can go check it out in her channel, and she will give you the rest of the story. Now, I think that I'm going to give you a good scenario so you can move on to what actually convicted the guy and everything in her part of the video. And so I hope you enjoyed this collaboration, and check out part 2 in her channel. Again, I will pin a link to the top of the comments down below and in the description box as well. Before I move on to the case, I will do a quick disclaimer. I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. This is a true crime ASMR video, as it says on the title. ASMR means that it's going to be some kind of whispering or soft-spoken related content. If you do not enjoy whispering, you feel it's creepy, it's going to give you nightmares, or you're gonna be scared of listening to this content, please, please, please just exit out of this video. There's almost, I don't know, I think I saw about 100 videos about Albert Fish, so I'm sure you will get the story from somebody else and you will enjoy their content better than mine. However, this is an ASMR channel, and this is what ASMR is all about. If you don't like ASMR mixed with true crime, then again, this is not going to be the channel for you. I just wanted to quickly mention that before I start with the case. I also will show you a different angle of Albert Fish. I'm going to tell you his story, but I feel like there is something to be done in the future. There is something we can learn from this story, and there is something that we can do as society to help avoid or try to avoid this kind of behavior, as you know, in some way. I'm not saying that we will succeed, but I think that as society we can try to bring an awareness to this topic that I will be sharing with you today, and maybe there is something we can do, you know, as far as laws, as far as understanding people with mental illness and how we can help them, because I feel like a lot of people judged this guy as if he chose to do a lot of the things he did, but there's a lot that it was going on in his mind, and there was a lot of issues that he had, and I'm gonna try to dip my toes into that area, but I don't want to offend anybody, so I hope that you take it with a grain of salt, and feel free to disagree. That's fine with me. I always say that we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. And I would love to read your point if you think otherwise, okay? We just have to be civil and explain the reasoning behind why we think how we think and share it if you care to share it with me. Now, this is again the tragic story of Albert Fish. His name originally was Hamilton Howard Fish. He was born in Washington, D.C. on May 19th, 1870. His dad's name was Randall, and at the time that Albert was born, he was 75 years old. And his mom's name was Ellen, but she was only 32. Don't ask me why. It was in the 1870s, in case you missed that part. Despite the big difference between the mom and the dad, Albert was the youngest, and he had 3 living siblings, Walter, Annie, and Edwin. Now, most of you know that back then, people used to have big families and not all of the kids would survive. It was pretty common back then that people would have, 10 kids and they would only have 5 they were alive. There was a lot of sickness and things that happened to babies that they couldn't avoid, or they couldn't, they didn't have medicine. So, this is not okay. He had only 3 living siblings. Yeah, it was pretty common that babies used to die more frequent than nowadays, thank God. Now, Albert's family had a pretty bad history of mental illness, and I want to mention that because that's just part of who he was in how he was born at. He was born into a family with mental illness. No, he didn't choose to be born in that family, and we all know that mental illness is something that you can inherit from your family, and it's pretty common. It's not like 1 in a million chances. It's pretty big, the chances that you have to develop some kind of mental illness, either as a child or growing up. Some of these illnesses, like you see, they can be when, you can develop them when you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 20 years old. It's not uncommon, and it's more common in the people that do have some kind of history in their family. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples of the kind of mental illness that you could find in his family. His uncle had religious mania. The brother was sent to a state mental hospital. His sister was diagnosed with a mental affliction, which whatever that means, right? And many other family members, at least 3 more, were diagnosed with different mental illness. On top of that, his mom had an oral and or visual hallucination, so maybe schizophrenia. I don't know, they don't call it schizophrenia, but I am assuming that, she heard and she saw things that weren't there, so hallucinations. Now, you probably think that hallucinations is something that usually happens to people with mental illness. Well, I have to tell you a little story. I was sick last November and I had a fever of 106 for 4 weeks, and they couldn't control it. There was no medicine that would put it down. It was just, I would have to have ice all over my body so my temperature would come down and I wouldn't die, basically. The antibiotics weren't working, so they were trying different things. In the meantime, I was having this really high fever. I have to tell you that I cried every time I saw the thermometer go up, because I knew that I was going to start to hallucinate. And I didn't hallucinate with people talking to me or telling me that I need to do things. It was the weirdest thing. I have a very deep love for animals. I just love them. I wish I could do something with animals in the future, that I could afford to do that. Maybe move to Africa and raise a pack of wolves. I don't know, something crazy like that. There's a lot of places where they do that because, the mother died or something. So I always dream about that. So I always had that in my mind. So I was hallucinating. I was seeing wolves. I was seeing things. I was cougars, lions eating something, some kind of animal, and it was, as much as I love animals, I just didn't want to see them while I was hallucinating. I have to tell you that it made me sad to even think about that I was going to start to have them because of my high fever. So I cannot understand how some people can live with this. I mean, I understand that it happens, but I feel so bad for them because you really see things when you have hallucinations. You believe that they're true, even though something in your mind, when you don't have schizophrenia, of course, or like in my case, I was having a very high fever, so I knew in my mind that they weren't there. There was no way that I could see, a lion eating something inside my bedroom, or the area where I was in the hospital. There was no way. I knew it. My mind was telling me, you're hallucinating, but everything felt so real. So I can only imagine what people that have this kind of hallucinations can go through on a daily basis, and how hard it would be for them after a while to recognize what is real and what is not. Well, that was a very long tangent, but I was trying to give you a little feel of, the hallucinations are not only for people with schizophrenia or with some kind of mental illness. When you experience them, that is when you realize how traumatic that is and how scary that is. But, mental illness is real. And it again, as we were talking about before, it has a lot to do with genes. So I feel like, this little Albert was born into a family with a lot of issues. However, if I'm reading in the internet that, the uncle had some kind of religious mania, that another one was sent to a mental hospital, they were somehow diagnosed. Under what circumstances, I have no idea. If they committed some kind of crime and or if they just were doing crazy things, inexplicable things. I shouldn't have said crazy enough, but you know what I mean. Things out of the ordinary, what people would consider crazy. And they were found somehow, or if they were going to some place, if they were going to a psychiatrist and being diagnosed and they were being treated, I have no idea. But if they were diagnosed, that means that somebody knew that this family was having some kind of issue with this mental illness. Now, apparently his dad was a riverboat captain and later on a fertilizer manufacturer. And that when the fertilizer things all started. Now, I'm just kidding. He wasn't that one. Now, I think that the dad, even though he was an older guy, I think that he was somehow smart, or at least a hard-working man, because, he had a good job. He knew he was providing for his family, and as I was reading through this story, it almost made me feel like he was the one holding the family together, He was not only the provider, but he was the one that was keeping everyone together. Because he died of a heart attack on October 16 of 1875. Randall, the dad, died. And I don't know, I just feel like after he died, it was like Ellen, the wife, or Albert's mom, just didn't know what to do with herself anymore. Remember, she had a problem. She was hallucinating, and she was hearing voices, and she was seeing things. So she realized that she couldn't deal with the kids anymore. So after Randall died, she put Albert in an orphanage called St. John in Washington. I mean, up until this point, you know that Albert's life, it was probably a little bit challenging, but I think that it's at this point when everything turned for the worst. when he got to the orphanage, he got bullied, and the kids would call him Ham and Eggs because of his name. And because, Hamilton Howard Fish, that was his name at the time. So he decided that he wanted to be known as Albert. Albert was the name of one of his dead siblings. But, being a little kid, I don't know if he meant anything by it, or if he just liked the name Albert. There's people that claim that that's the first thing that give you a sign that he had some kind of, I don't know, wrong idea about the dead, that everything started there. I don't read too much into it. I just think that as a kid, remember when you were 10 and you probably, I remember hating my name, and I would be like, why did my mom call me this or that? And I remember I liked the names of some people that I saw on TV, or some of my friends, or somebody I knew from school. So I know what other names I would have been called instead of my name. I know what I liked, so maybe he liked the name Albert. I don't know. I don't read too much into it, but there are some people that claim that that's where everything started. Now, he just wanted to change his name because he wanted the police to stop bullying him and making fun of his name. In that orphanage, he was also abused, according to him, because then you'll know why, but according to him, he was being abused there by the people that work there, okay? And this is an assumption because he claims that he was abused, and but he doesn't say, okay, the lady that at the kitchen abused me, or the guy that security guy abused me. He didn't give exact names. He didn't say who, but he claims that he was abused, and he also claims that he was mercifully whipped. So I'm assuming that he was physically being abused by an adult that worked there. Now, Albert said, and I'm going to quote him, "I was there till I was nearly 9, and that is where I got started wrong." I mean, if he says that, I'm sure that there's something inside him realize that he wasn't the same person as he was before entering that orphanage. He claims that he began to enjoy the physical pain that the beatings brought. So when he was still in the orphanage and he was going through all that abuse, he claimed that he decided to enjoy it. And believe it or not, that is a coping mechanism, and that it's something that humans tend to do when they can't escape the situation that they're leaving. They can't physically leave, they can't mentally leave, because they think that they can't, so they put up with things. And some people cope with the situation that they're living that way. Now, in 1880, his mother got a government job and went back to the orphanage and took Albert out. That was in 1880, but now in 1882, at the age of 12, he began a relationship with a telegraph boy. There are some other theories that claim that he met this boy while he was at the orphanage. I don't have any proof or anything that I read that actually claimed that. And if we're going by the years, if he got out of the orphanage in 1880, then 1882 was 2 years later and he wasn't at the orphanage. So, but just wanted to quickly mention that in case that's how you heard about the story. This boy introduced him to, and this has a name, I'm not going to try to say it, but basically introduced him to drinking his own pee and eating his own feces. Yes, that's gross, but that's something that is real. It happens, so we just have to deal with it. Not because it's normal, not because we should assume that it's normal, but you know what I'm saying? That's something that he was introduced to by this person, and again, somehow in his mind clicked and he did it, or he started doing it. Then he started to visit public restrooms and begin inside. He also liked to write obscene letters to women or women that, he got the names from these women from different classified ads and matrimonial agencies, according to what I read. So he would like to get these names, get this address, and send them obscene letters to this lady. Now, Albert arrived and moved to New York, and he said that he became a prostitute and began raping boys at the same time. I'm gonna make a pause here, and I'm gonna tell you what I think about this, okay? Somehow, everything that I read about this guy, and if you think otherwise, let me know. I would love to know what you think about it, but I think that he was somehow gay, or he was discovering himself as a gay person, and if in 2018 they're fighting for their rights, they're fighting for, to be accepted. Think about in the 1800s. I feel like maybe he did know he was different. Maybe he did know he didn't like women the same way. And then he got married, but I'll get into that. But I think it was a combination of things that maybe he was going through, the mental illness that we all can agree at the end that he had some kind of mental illness. He was probably having all this mental illness along with trying to be a person himself. Like, maybe he was gay, maybe he did like boys instead of, girls, since he was a little boy, and he just wasn't going to be accepted. Maybe he got abused at the orphanage because he liked boys and not girls, and that's why he was, we can only assume all these things. But because of everything that I read about it, it made it seem like that, it also made these letters that he would write to these ladies, it also made it seem like he hated women, like he just, maybe because he was left by, his mom left him at the orphanage, maybe because he didn't have a good mother figure in his life, whatever. I am not going to excuse him, because again, this is not to excuse him. We're just trying to dig into him as a person and not as a killer, okay? I'm not excusing everything that he did. I don't believe that, it's excusable by any kind of mental illness or anything, but I'm just trying to dig into him as a guy, as a person, as Albert, and not as Albert Fish, the killer, So, I think the combination of the letters to to these ladies being obscene and him confessing that he was having some kind of relationship with boys, it kind of gives me the idea that maybe he didn't even know that he was gay. Maybe he didn't know that was something. Maybe he just felt a different way. It mixed with everything that we just talked about. It's going to unravel a lot of events that we're going to talk about. Now, then he moved to New York, and again, we talk about that he became a prostitute, and he claims that he was raping boys at the same time. And I'm going to say he claims because a lot of the things that he confessed to when he was arrested, the police don't have proof that really happened. So is it a possibility that he was a prostitute? Yeah, I do believe that there was a strong possibility that he was a prostitute. But I also believe that maybe he imagined those things. They're rapings to these boys at the same time that he was being a prostitute. Maybe he did it and he got away with it. But again, a lot of what he claimed that he did, some of them are, there's 3 specific ones that he was convicted for, and we're going to talk about in the second part of this video. But I just wanted to make that clear. It's not because they found all those boys that he raped at the time when he moved to New York. It's what he claimed he did at the time. He his mom, I think she was fed up with the idea. So she decided that in order to settle him down, she was going to find him a wife. And she did. So, could this be because the mom knew that he was messing with boys? I don't know. Maybe she did. And she was like, well, what he needs is a wife. So in 1898, his mother arranged the marriage of Albert and Anna Mary Hoffman, who was 9 years younger than him. So I did the math, and I think he was 28 at the time that he got married, and she was 19, if I'm not mistaken. So you can paint a picture in your head, okay? Well, at least that's what I do when I hear about different ages and the time and what he did after and what he did before. When I don't have a clear age in my mind, it kind of doesn't make sense because you start with the story with him being a kid, you know? Now, when he got married to this lady, Anna Marie, they had 6 children: Albert, Anna, Gertrude, Eugene, John, and Henry Fish. He was working as a house painter at the time, but he also claims that he continued to molest boys, some of them younger than 6. Again, he claimed that he did that. He also claimed that he had a lover. And so he was married, but he had this guy lover. Again, we're going back to the claim that he was gay somehow, or, you know, and the mom, and maybe even himself, maybe he thought he was wrong as well. And this lover that he had took him to a wax museum, and then he became obsessed with this sexual mutilation. I'm not gonna go into the details what made him go into it, but he was looking at this different men, things, figures in the wax museum, and that's where he claims that his sexual mutilation idea started. So in 1903 he was arrested for grand larceny and was sentenced to prison in Sing Sing. I don't know how much time he did, I just really couldn't find specific dates, but that was in 1903. But then around 1910 he was working again, but in this time he was working in Wilmington, Delaware, and in Wilmington, Delaware, he met a 19-year-old named Thomas Kedden, Ketten, and they began a sadomasochist relationship. This is a little bit unclear, so I'm gonna explain it to you as best as I can, but the idea is that first he claims that he started a relationship, sadomasochist relationship with this guy Thomas, but it also in the confession, because again he confessed to all this, he says that Thomas was intellectually disabled. So we don't know if he was taking advantage of this kid, or if this Thomas, I don't know why I call him kid, but I don't know why, this Thomas, you know, if he would agree or not to this. So after 10 days, he took Thomas to an old farmhouse, you know, after 10 days that they started their relationship, where he tortured him for over 2 weeks, and ended with Albert cutting half of his private part. Remember, we talked about how this lover that he had before took him to the wax museum, mutilation and stuff like that. Well, apparently he had enough, and he cut in half his lover's, Thomas, private part. Now, apparently the plan was to kill him, according to Albert, cut him up and take him home. What? Isn't this guy married? I mean, why would he take? I don't understand that part, but that was his plan. See, that's what doesn't make sense in this case, because he claims all these things, and a lot of them don't make sense. That's fine, doesn't make sense, but practical, because if he's going to take this guy cut into pieces into his home, how is he gonna hide it? The smell and everything from the kids, from the wife, from everything. But so he decided that he would draw too much attention to himself by carrying this guy to his house. So he ended up putting peroxide over the wound to make sure that it didn't get infected, and then put a little bit of Vaseline. He wrapped it, and he left the guy with a $10 bill. He kissed the guy goodbye and left. So he didn't kill him. He just cut his private part and left him. He never heard from this guy again. So, was this guy real? Wasn't it real? In his mind, it kind of made sense that to do that. And again, we don't have that much information about this specific Thomas guy. So we don't know what happened to him, if in fact Albert did all these things to him. Is he alive? Is he dead? Did the police look for this guy Thomas? I really have so many questions about that I couldn't find an answer to. In January 1917, Fish's wife was like, Albert's wife I should say, left him for John Starove. I'm not sure. He was a handyman that helped around the house. So she left with the guy, and she decided to leave all the kids with Albert. And a lot of different articles that I read said that she left, but not all of them mentioned that she left Albert for another guy. And she didn't take the kids. Well, that's very well known, because he was the one who was going to raise all these kids by himself. He also claims, Albert claims, that his wife took every possession they had. I mean, she left them with nothing but the kids. He also said that after that he started to have auditory hallucinations. So he started to listen to hear voices. And once he heard a voice, apparently it was John the Apostle that told him that he needed to wrap himself inside a carpet or a rug. Now that we know that the police, after he got apprehended and everything and arrested, we're not there yet, but one of the things that the police could corroborate is that he did try to harm himself. Like, he started to self-harm. He would embed needles into his groin and abdomen. So that's something that the police know that happened, because when they did x-rays, they revealed that he had at least 29 needles lodged in his pelvic region. He also hit himself repeatedly with a nail-studded paddle, inserted things and set them on fire inside his butt. All of these things that he's been doing and harming himself, according to what I read, are some of the things that the voices told him to do. Again, maybe schizophrenia with some kind of psychosis. I'm not a psychiatrist, I cannot, tell you what he had, but that's what it sounds like to me. Now, there were no signs of abuse at first sight against his children, so when everything was said and done, nobody could find any kind of physical abuse to these kids. However, he encouraged them and their friends to paddle their butts with the same nail-studded paddle. I don't know. He then grew an obsession with cannibalism and would serve his kids raw meat for dinner. That is, those are the two things that the police could corroborate that it was true. Then, he suggested that the kids should do that and harm themselves as well, and that he would serve them raw meat for dinner. Then on 1919, he stabbed an intellectually disabled boy in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. He claimed he would pick people mentally handicapped or African American as victims because he assumed that they wouldn't be missed. Again, that was his assumption, of course. not drove, but this was the 1800s and things were a lot different than they are today, even though nowadays, we're not going to talk about that. He would also claim that he would pay boys to bring him other boys, so he would have a few boys that would scatter the area and try to find boys to bring to this Albert guy. Apparently, again, this is what he claims, okay, not findings of the police. He claimed that he tortured kids with implements of hell, and they were a butcher knife, a small handsaw, and a meat cleaver. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure it's something to butcher an animal or something. I can only assume. But those three things were the implements of hell, as he called them. So on July 11th, 1924, he found Beatrice Gill playing alone on her parents' Staten Island farm. He approached her and offered money for helping him find rhubarb. She quickly accepted, but as they were leaving the farm, the mom chased him out of the property. He then decided he wasn't done with the family, so he came back and tried to sleep in the family's barn, but the dad found him and forced him to leave. That would have been a really bad picture. There's another story he would tell too about a couple of kids that were playing in the on a sidewalk, and he approached the kids and asked them if they had eaten lunch, and when they said no, he invited them into his apartment for sandwiches. And when the boys get into his apartment, they started wrestling on top of his bed, on Albert's bed, and the bed somehow broke, and they found the knife, the handsaw, and the meat cleaver thing. So they got scared and ran out of the apartment. He got remarried then and got divorced within a week, and that is something that I wanted to mention because apparently he never divorced his wife, but he remarried another person, so they have a little bigamy claim there, and that's what the claim is all about, okay? So I wanted to mention that, but again, the marriage lasted only a week. Now, we need to talk about a few of the things that I want you to keep in mind and that I want to introduce to you as something that I've been thinking in regards of this case. I don't know if you watch Netflix, but I had an obsession watching Bates Motel. I know that it wasn't a very popular show because of how dramatic and how I think people were expecting a lot more blood and a lot more gruesome stuff, as it was based on the Psycho movie. Very popular, very old movie. Now, I watched the series from start to finish, and I think within a month. And I think that the guy that plays Norman, it's an excellent actor because I almost cried at the end of the seasons, of the finale of the series. And it made me understand a lot of things that I just didn't understand about mental illness. And keep in mind, this wasn't a real story, but I think that whoever wrote this, it was trying to let you know, or trying to show you how hard it is for a person with a mental illness to deal with what they feel, what they see, and what they hear, what is real and what is not real for them. And that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of other cases that I've been doing research, but in specific this one about Albert. In the show on Netflix, Norman would have a double personality. He would be this sweet boy, very polite, very sweet, very caring, very protective, very the perfect kid. And then he had another personality where he was an evil version of his mom. Like, he would see himself as his mom, but this mom was evil and would kill people. So when the personality of his mom got over him, and he would kill, and then he would change back to Norman, and he was again the sweet boy that he wouldn't hurt anybody, you know. And it made me see how he suffered because he saw this other person that lived inside him as an intruder inside of him. He would blame this other person for killing people, for hiding their bodies, and for he had it was hard to see how he had a problem with this other person that lived inside him, and what he was doing. He knew that what this other person was doing was wrong, but he couldn't detach himself from the situation and see and realize that it was him. That there wasn't another person inside of him that was killing. It was him killing. That when this other personality took over, and he suffers so much, because he wanted this other person to stop. That gave me a very good, but a very different perspective of how I felt about people with double personalities. I think that in movies they made it seem a different way, and when I saw that show I realized that the struggle that he went through to realize that it was him, because he would call the police on himself, and then the other personality would take over when he went to the police station, and he would say, no, that's not true. How does that have anything to do with this case? It's just to put it into perspective that people with mental illness sometimes are not aware, depending on the illness that they have. Sometimes they're fighting themselves, and they want to stop. They want to not have this problem, but they're not in control. They need help. They need help of a psychiatrist. They need the help of a medicine. They need help, understanding, and love from their family, from people around them. But not everyone gets it. I heard people saying, well, if you're depressed, snap out of it. Well, it's not that easy. You're not sad. You're not, I'm having a bad day kind of thing. It's an unbalanced thing inside your brain that, as Albert in this situation was hearing voices telling him to wrap himself in a rug, hurt himself in different and very horrific ways. Do you think he wanted to harm himself? Do you think that he wanted to feel that pain? Do you think that he was just enjoying it? Or do you think that maybe he was trying, because if he was in fact an evil person, okay, let's assume for a minute that there wasn't a mental illness here, but he was just evil. Why wouldn't he do that to his own kids? We hear this every day. Mothers killing their own babies. Fathers raping their own daughters. Why didn't he do that to his own kids? And why didn't he? I just feel like he was fighting with himself, He was fighting the fact that he liked boys and he didn't like girls. He was fighting the fact that he didn't know what was real anymore. I'm just saying this, assuming this because there's not a lot of things that have been proved of everything that he claimed. And you just haven't heard the rest of the story. You have to hear the rest. What he did to Grace, how he killed her, because he started hallucinating a lot of these things. He started in his mind. He thought he did all these things, but eventually he started committing these crimes and killing these people and doing horrible things to them. But this is how it started. And I just wanted to compare it to this story with Norman because you probably watched the show or maybe a few episodes or something, and so I feel like the show is more about mental illness than killing people. It just gives you, and if you watch that show until the end, it shows you how powerless they feel when they are trying to fight against something that they have no control over. If you ever had depression and you know you can't control your sadness, then think about how hard it must be for somebody with a mental illness to deal with their own demons every single day of their lives, to not be able to escape themselves because they can't do that. They're living with their worst enemy inside of them. Now, I think we can all always do better. I'm a perfectionist in pretty much cleaning and everything, so I always think I can do better. I try my best, it looks good, but I think it always can be done better. So, I think we can always do better. And I think that we can all spread awareness about mental illness. Stop assuming that when you have a mental illness, you have the power to control it. You don't have the power to control it. And you don't have the power to say no to a lot of these things because sometimes your brain takes over when you have one of these issues, when you have schizophrenia and you're hearing voices, and when they are tormenting you, when they are showing up in places where you don't want to see them, when you're starting to see people that you think it's there but it's not there. They can't control that. They can't snap out of that. So I hope that in the future there is something that we can do. And I think it starts with awareness. That there is work to be done. That there's people to help. And that they all deserve to be treated. They all deserve to be shielded from a society that sometimes don't understand what they're going through. And I'm telling you, I don't have any experience with mental illness. I don't have anybody on my family that had one, or a close family member, or or a close friend, I should say, but I don't have any experience with that. I don't have it, so I am just speaking from my heart what I feel, that the experiences that I had, that it was so silly, my hallucination while I had the fever, the fact that I've been watching that show, which I always think that I watch a show for something. I always learn something from a show. And I'm gonna do a different video about that. I know that most of it's not real, but I know that there are some things that they add into these things that give me a perspective. It doesn't have to be real to give me perspective on things. And I hope that we can be aware of these things. Start a campaign, start something. Take it seriously. Make it a law. Create some kind of law for these people to help them succeed in life. Maybe some of them are not ready to be in this society, but they deserve every bit of respect. They deserve to be treated right. They deserve to be helped as much as we can. And if we can, detect these mental illnesses in the future, and if we can be more aware, if you're a teacher and you're seeing this kid that is struggling, that you know that something is not normal, I hope that we can all find it in our hearts to speak up, to talk to the parents, to talk to the school, to talk to the district, to help these kids from the start. So maybe we can impact their lives. If you're a mom, if you're an aunt, if you're an uncle, if you're a grandfather, just don't let it go. If the kid is doing something that it is not supposed to, and you know it's wrong, don't let it go. Find the help that they need. If we can all be aware that some things are not okay, even when our kids do it, and we can try to find a way to help them, I think a lot of the things that we're seeing nowadays can be changed. Ignoring the problem will never be a solution. Ignoring the problems that our kids or our society have today, it's not going to make it better. We need to be aware. We need to, again, take our side from our phones and computers and look up. Look who's around you. Look who's struggling. Lend a hand. If you can't be any help, find the help. Make sure that person is safe and that the people around that person is safe as well. We need to start caring for each other more and stop entertaining ourselves to run away from what is real today. Yes, it sucks. A lot of people keep dying because of somebody going into a school and doing all this great. I don't want to call them crazy. I want to call them unspeakable things that they're doing. Because you can be in your right mind and do that. You don't have to have a mental illness for it. Newsflash. Yes, it's sad. Yes, I don't watch the news. I can't watch the news. I can only read them. I can't watch them. There will be no time in my house that you will see our TV on with the news on. Or TV on. Period. I like to watch Netflix in the afternoon whenever I'm done with everything, but it doesn't help watching the news. So I read them. And instead of running away and hiding and pretending they're not there, I think about what can I do to make things better. When I hear one of my kids telling me about this friend that is struggling, that they don't know if they should be here or not, that their life is too hard or whatever, I don't tell her to go, try to help him. I do something myself. I go talk to the office. I go with her to the office. We talk about it. We find this kid counseling because he needs it. And I'm talking about a true story here. Speak up. Be aware. Know who's by you. Know who lives by, next door. Try to be aware of things that happen. Don't take them as normal. Don't just let them go. Be proactive. Do something. And maybe not only we will avoid a lot of this murders and things, horrible things that happen, but we can also give this person a better life, we can do something to improve their lifestyle. And if that means they can't be in society, well, we have to do something to help them. And locking them up in a jail, I don't think it's the solution. I think we need to see the signs and try to do something about it. Now I can keep talking about this thing forever. Because I'm passionate about it, because I cried with this show. My husband was watching it with me. He just didn't get it. He was like, I don't understand. It's just that you love Norman. I love the guy. He is the sweetest boy. He is the kind of son that every mother wants to have. But you also know that there's another side of Norman. And you can kind of separate the two persons. Okay, that was the bad guy. Now this is but it's the same person, So you feel the pain of realizing that that person can't run away from himself. It just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. really, to, and I can't really put myself in a situation of a mother with a son or a daughter with a mental illness. How much you love them, how much you know that they're good, that they're sweet, and they're just, maybe not behaving that way in certain occasions. Again, I'm going to link the second part of this video and you can hear more about this guy, but now you have a perspective. Now you know who he is, where he was born, what he did, how he started, and then you're gonna learn from ASMR investigation what he did in order to get caught and to be sentenced to death. Thanks again for being on the other side. I hope that you check out part 2. And this, I'm checking the time. It's been 56 minutes. I'm gonna let you go. Thank you. I'll see you on my next video, which will